People are sending me my face on things.
Oh,
Shout out Cavell for the merch.
Be sure to get your VeVe, Ecomi, and Omi merch at CavellAnderson.com. Our primary line will always be available, while our limited edition section will only ever have 100 items total and will never be sold again. Get it while supplies last. Yo, what is going on, y'all? I'm Cavell Anderson, and we are back with another video that's going to impact VeVe and Ecomi. And we're going to be going over one of the most sinister businesses in the world, which is, of course, the metaverse. So this is going to be interesting. There's a whole dark side of YouTube, and I didn't know that it was this big. I didn't know that there was so many people who felt against metaverses. But honestly, I think everyone has these superhero complexes where they're trying to look out for the world and think that they're trying to protect everyone and stuff like this, not realizing that most of the stuff that they're complaining about, like people spending less time with their family and things like this and spending more time online and in metaverses and things like that. Where was this outrage when Fortnite was created, or Call of Duty, or let's take it back to Miss Pac-Man or Pac-Man or freaking PlayStation 1 or Sega Genesis, Dreamcast? Like, where was all this outrage when it really began? Like, the fact of the matter is, throughout life, we look for entertainment. The thing is, it's just now we can work through a metaverse. We can learn through metaverses. It's expanding the world to a point where we no longer have to pollute our planet in order to do the things that we need to do to survive here. So obviously some things will never be replaced. Like we need to eat, we need some place to live, we need certain things throughout the real world. But if it's less people outside polluting, that means that there can be more people outside actually saving the planet. So people always look at it from the worst perspectives more so than the best. But let's jump into the video, see what they have to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to drop that thumbs up, subscribe, turn on notifications so you stay updated. And yeah, let's get into this video.
Facebook's new metaverse is relentlessly horrific. On October 28th, 2021, Facebook released a video revealing their new name, Meta. In the video, Mark Zuckerberg describes Facebook's new augmented reality, a reality where you can be whatever you want to be, where you can be seen how you want to be seen, where you can escape the clutches of your atomized, transient, lonely life.
Sounds like any video game ever.
You're in the experience, not just looking at it. And we call this the metaverse.
The video was cringy and dystopian. People memed it, so it was a joke, and then we all moved on. Little did we know, we were already in the beta version of Metaverse. In 2021, it was calculated that the average American spends 5 to 6 hours a day on their phone, and another 4 hours on their computer. That means if you sleep 8 hours a day, you spend almost double the amount of your waking hours in the virtual world than you do in the real world. But what about the other 6 hours of your...
I think the separation here is the problem. What you have to understand is the virtual world is the real world. Like, we're no longer living in the stone ages where we didn't have technology. Now we can share our thoughts, we can share our opinions, we can connect with people through the internet. No, it's not a face-to-face interaction, but the fact of the matter is it's still an interaction with a person who's really on the other side of that keyboard, the monitor. It's a person over there that we're able to speak to and learn from and things like this, because the fact of the matter is everyone cannot afford to travel and go to different countries and things like that, but everyone can find somebody from another country on the internet, connect with them, learn about their cultures, learn about some of the things that they enjoy on that side of the world, learn about some of the differences, the similarities. We can learn more than we ever have been able to at any point in history thanks to technology. So everybody tries to make it out to be some big bad thing when in reality, some people are just going to use it in bad ways. You can use it in moderation. You don't have to spend 5 to 6 hours, even though that's the average of what Americans spend. You don't have to do that. It's a lot of people who spend a lot of their time in the gym. I mean, it's people who make other decisions, and everybody should be held accountable for the decisions that they make. It's your own decision. Like, we all have 24 hours in a day. You can spend it how you want to spend it. What you choose to spend your 24 hours on is your choice. So I don't think these progress police should be out here, you know, trying to make everything seems like an attack on humanity when in reality, it's just humans making choices.
waking day. The hours we somehow manage to spend in the real world, well, that's time that could be spent in the virtual world. That is wasted time that doesn't make Facebook money. It's a completely untapped market, which is why Facebook decided they would take things to the next level, putting all their money, all their employees, and even changing their name to take our addictions to new heights.
Yeah, keep in mind though, Facebook is not the one who originated this. First off, there's a movie called Ready Player One out. I don't know if you've seen that, but that was one thing that actually got this type of mindset big. Ready Player One, the movie. Then you have Fortnite and games like this that's been very addicting for a while now, and a lot of people spend every waking second on games like this, and they have for the last decade. So like GTA has been doing this forever. So, obviously, and some of these games, like what people don't know, Second Life, you can actually work. It's people who have been working in metaverses and making a living from metaverses as well for decades as well. So it's just, I think people just don't have all the information, and you see one company coming out trying to make progress and you just jump to conclusions immediately.
This really shouldn't be shrugged off. Facebook's algorithms have already worked exceptionally well. Facebook is one of the main forces behind our virtual addiction in the first place.
See, this is why I disagree. Like, it's just everything that's being said. Facebook is behind your addiction in the first place. Not at all. Facebook algorithm works to understand what humans are doing and want to do and want more of. Facebook algorithm is doing nothing more than monitoring human behavior. So it's not Facebook, it's humans, it's people. Why is it that humans want to do these things? Why is it that we need entertainment? Why? You want to know why? Because the real world is so fucked up that we need an escape from it. We would rather speak on the internet and connect with different people online and do things online than have to put up with our boss screaming at us, have to wonder how we're going to pay our next bills. Life is not the greatest experience most of the time. So this is why you have algorithms able to take advantage of that and give us the entertainment and things that we want, which that has existed since television. What do you think the design of a television was for? What about the news? You have different types of things on television. You have the real stuff, because the real stuff gets to some people. Like my great-great-grandmother died scared to leave the house because she was paralyzed by watching the news all the time. Then you have some people who would rather watch like funny things. You got the love romances. Then you got people who want to watch slashers and scary stuff all the time. There is literally every category on TV. You can't blame Netflix or something for that when TV has been around for the longest. It started black and white. So it's like trying to place blame on progress. It's not the route. It's not the way to go.
It's for this reason that the metaverse is beyond sinister, because the metaverse sets a precedent the likes of which we've never seen before. Instead of us being addicted to a drip of anodyne lethargic dross, we will be attaching our own consciousness, our own lives, our own businesses, our own culture, our society into the virtual world. People are getting married inside the metaverse. Nike just bought a virtual shoe company that makes virtual NFTs and sneakers for the metaverse. We are currently witnessing the commodification and mechanization of human existence. But to understand this whole picture, we need to understand the person behind it all, Mark Zuckerberg.
See, and they're trying to create a villain out of Mark Zuckerberg as if he came up with any of this. He came up with none of it. He just has the money to actually create something that other people came up with.
The son of a dentist and psychiatrist, Mark Zuckerberg was born and raised in an affluent suburb of New York, where he would go on to attend Harvard University. For Mark's entire life, he has never lived outside of the elitist culture he was birthed into. Just like almost all of his co-workers, associates, the reporters covering him, or even the congressman pretending to regulate him. Starting from the beginning, Zuckerberg's business ventures have always been rife with controversy and unethical business practices. Zuckerberg started his first web venture in 2003 while attending Harvard. The site was called FaceMash. It compiled photos of Harvard students and allowed users to evaluate their attractiveness. But after Harvard caught on to this, Zuckerberg would begin a new site.
So basically, Mark Zuckerberg has always been good at understanding human behavior and things that other people wouldn't dare to do, like rating students in the school. He took the leap and actually did it because he knew that people would care. He knows the things that people care about, and he puts it in front of your face. Like, humans are the only ones who act like, oh, did I see this person right there, but they're not really attractive. If I say that they're attractive, it's a bad thing or something like that. It's like, no, he puts it in front of your face and you do what you naturally, instinctively want to do. You want to click like that. That's what he did. So I think that what happens is some people like Mark Zuckerberg who make this progress, they bring out the side of people that people try to hide and act professional and act a certain, like if people spent less time acting the things that progress would not intimidate so many people. Stop acting and realize it's okay to be yourself. Like it's okay to be yourself. If it wasn't so taboo to do certain things, like certain stuff would not even blow up and pop the way that it does.
Inspired by Harvard students' directory Facebook's, Zuckerberg would go on to create his new online version for students. Instantly, the site gained enormous popularity. Facebook's was live on a handful of college campuses. It was not the market-leading social network or even the first college social network. Other companies had launched sooner and with more features. Facebook only had 150,000 users, and yet that summer they raised their first $500,000 in venture capital. And then less than a year later, they raised an additional $12.7 million. So how was Facebook able to raise so much money when its actual usage was so small? Well, by all accounts, what impressed investors the most was one thing in particular: the raw amount of time Facebook's active users spent on the site. More than half of all users came back to the site every single day, because from the beginning, the site was built to be extremely addictive, so that once the consumer was addicted, Facebook could steal all their information and data and sell it off to advertisers for a hefty profit.
So in other words, while he's saying that it was highly addicting, it basically, they did a good job at making something fun, making something that people actually wanted. Because when you want something, you go back to it, you use it, you enjoy the time that you spend on it. So he's a good businessman is basically what he's trying to say. But if he just says, straight up says, this guy's a very, very good businessman, he understands what people want, he understands what the majority of the world wants, if they just say that, it doesn't sound as sinister. So yeah.
From the beginning, Zuckerberg had always shown contempt for his users. For example, just days into Facebook's launch, Zuckerberg texted a friend bragging about how he had all Facebook users' personal information and offered info about anyone at Harvard. "They trust me," Zuckerberg bragged. "Dumb f***s." Whilst at the same time, Zuckerberg assured users over the years that they shouldn't be concerned about their privacy. As Facebook continued to grow, several of Zuckerberg's early collaborators accused him of stealing credit and shares in the company. Lawsuits followed and Zuckerberg paid, but none of this would get in the way of Facebook's growth. The company was now close to 2 billion users worldwide, granting Zuckerberg a net worth of over $70 billion. And as is always the case, Zuckerberg, like every other Silicon Valley titan, never gets high on his own supply. Instead, Zuckerberg values his own privacy. He lives in a secluded 750-acre mega mansion in Hawaii, which is secured by a 6 feet surrounding wall. And in his Palo Alto house, Zuckerberg bought 4 adjacent houses at the price of $30 million just to serve as an extra privacy buffer. And when Zuckerberg does go
that is fire. That is fire. And to be fair, people who get on his platform, by the way, we're knowingly giving up access to our information. We're putting our own information in, which is why we have to take responsibility and accountability for the things that we are doing. If he values his privacy, he more than likely is not putting his own personal details into websites, even if he owns a website doing it. Like, he knows what interests most people. He has different interests. He has an interest in privacy and things like that. While most of us, we don't care about being on social media, putting our images out there and connecting with people online. It's just not been his interest. He likes to capitalize on other people's interests, which is any business in the world. Like, why do people create toilet paper? Because we have a need to wipe our asses. Are they sinister too? Like, come on now.
Online, his webcam is covered with masking tape, because Zuckerberg doesn't trust technocrats like himself. But most of the public, or in Zuckerberg's words, the dumb f***s.
You want to know something that's very sinister, to be fair? I mean, hospitals charge money. Why? Like, you can literally die without treatment in a lot of scenarios, and they charge you for it. What if you can't afford that? Like if we want to talk about sinister, we can go to pretty much anything in the world. The thing is, people don't want to go to the actual things that need to be questioned. People want to talk about an optional ability to go into a metaverse. It's like, what are you talking about?
Allow Facebook to gather an ever-growing amount of intimate information about each of its users. Facebook knows the sites you visit, the events you attend, the vehicles you use, because Facebook is attached to so many other sites. It even knows your browsing history even when you're not using Facebook. Facebook is like a leech that's life force depends on sucking all your information and privacy away from you. By synthesizing this information, Facebook
is not putting cameras in everyone's houses, by the way. We put stuff online, we put stuff on the internet, and Facebook is big. Facebook runs the stuff. So when we put our own information out there, it's It's us. It's us giving the internet access to our information, which we knowingly do because we all use the internet and we all know that once you put something on the internet, it's never leaving. We know this. We are making the decisions to do this.
Algorithm can make astonishingly accurate assumptions about your life. It can know your assets even if you've never mentioned a word about money, wealth, or your investments. Facebook's facial recognition software is now so advanced that it can detect users and uploaded photos even if the user hasn't been tagged. Because this is the core of Facebook's exponential growth. This is where the real money and wealth behind Facebook lies. Facebook serves as the ultimate hub for advertisements. Its algorithms work to create the most finely tuned ad pictures in history. Facebook's success is predicated on how long it can addict the user, which they can then sell off this engagement to advertisers.
And I think that this is the same thing that television does, except for television can't get people's information. Like if you had to go and fill out a whole essay to buy one television, the television not making you fill out an essay about yourself would be the television that you buy. Technology has just allowed for new forms of advertisement, and because they're offering free entertainment for people, Facebook has to be able to sustain itself and run the website, which means that it needs to be monetized. And this is a great way of monetizing because people have to put their information in anyway. You get advertisements on television as it is. The only difference is now you can get advertisements that's actually catered to you. So from a business standpoint, I think that if you look at things from a business standpoint, you realize that it just makes sense to do these things. It's logical to do these things. And people try to make the logical sound sinister and sound bad, as if it's bad actually someone taking the time to put effort into building a business. It makes no sense. It's like if you knew without a shadow of a doubt, you wanted to open a restaurant, you knew exactly what every single item to put on your menu that would sell, that would make this restaurant the best restaurant in your area. It's like if you use this information and you actually do it and you make the most successful business in the area, now you're the bad guy because you actually know because you actually take the time to do your research and you build something that, you create something that people are actually going to want to use. It's like if you're taking shots in the dark, that's better. But if you actually do something logical, it's a bad thing.
And the company has been insanely successful at doing that, with roughly 200 million Americans and Canadians using the app every day. Sean Parker, the first president of Facebook, bluntly admitted that Facebook overrides the free will of its users. When engineers designed Facebook, Parker explained that their point of focus was, quote, "How do we consume as much of your time and conscious as possible?" In his XEO article, Parker admitted that Facebook wasn't just addictive as a virtual drug, but was having similarly wide-reaching effects. Quote, "Facebook literally changes your relationship with society and with each other."
I mean, so getting people to spend as much of their time as possible. I mean, that's what everybody look at this YouTube channel right now. This is kind of hypocritical. Look at how well put together this video is. Like going into this, you're putting this amount of time into this video, this amount of research, this amount of different facts from so many different places. And then you're speaking the way you are and presenting it the way you are to get as much of people's time as possible, because the more time people watch your video, the more money you make. So you're literally doing right now what you're talking about is so sinister for Facebook to do. You're trying to get as much, and I haven't checked the rest of your channel, but more than likely, if I go to your channel, I think you had a decent amount of subscribers, like 1 million or something. So you more than likely make videos like this on a regular basis, which means your entire channel is based around you understanding people and trying to keep them on your channel as long as possible. Yet when Facebook does it, it's sinister, right?
God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains. This was a stunning admission, but it received surprisingly little attention at the time, because deep down we all want to ignore this reality. It's just easier to be comfortably numb. The closest analogy—
and these videos are doing the exact same thing that Facebook is doing, like exact same thing. So what about people seeing these videos, getting hooked in and watching the rest of your content?
I could think of to the addictive power of social media is probably heroin. Heroin gives an illusion of knowing and of control. The heroin addict is analogous to the social media consumer, where what is seen feels real. The virtual world allows the user to blot out the real world and enter into a pleasurable passive numbness. You become absorbed by the dopamine, hooking you to look at the next thing and the next thing. And just like any other addiction, people always overestimate their control over their virtual usage. And most importantly, the damage social media addiction has on the lives of its users and society is what, in my view, defines it as a serious addiction.
I don't think that it's as serious as this video is trying to paint it out to be. The problem is, before we had the internet, we still had fat people. We still had people addicted to drugs. We still had people who drank. So we have all these different addictions and all these different reasons for people being on these addictions. And that all existed before the internet. So what reason would people have to be fat then? Like they should have been outside. What is there to do outside of like what is there? Why are you not outside? Like how do you get fat? But you get fat because life is stressful. So you eat, you find joy in eating and things like this. You overeat, you overindulge, or you drink a lot. Like you do these things because life leads you to something. Just because, and the fact of the matter is, everything is addicting. People get addicted. We humans are addictive in nature. We're attracted to things that make us get addicted. But this new level of addiction, metaverses and things like this is actually something that can bring value to your life, because so many people are using this as an opportunity to find jobs online, to work jobs online, to do the things that they would be doing anyway, but now they can get paid for it. Now that they can have ownership over some of the things that they see on the internet or have on the internet or enjoy on the internet. Now ownership is involved. So it's a completely different thing now. Like, this is really truly changing lives, and it's giving people a positive that comes from the addictions that we already have, like playing video games and things like that. And most people spending all their time doing that. Now you can get paid to do what you've been doing for free your whole life.
And just a few months ago, Frances Haugen revealed Facebook is ripping apart the social fabric of how society works, and science agrees. A 2017 study in the American Journal of Epidemiology found that the use of Facebook correlated with declining psychological and even physical health. The more time spent on Facebook, the worse the user's mental health.
And you can say that the more time spent sitting anywhere reading articles like the one that they posted, the more time spent. Like, the thing is, they can't keep retention for that long. People are going to read one article and not go back. YouTube channels like this, sitting here, it causes the same bad results. Video games causes the exact same thing. It's like everything that impacts, like everything does what they're talking about right now. They're just trying to put it all off on Facebook, and then people agree with that. Like, oh yeah, it is all Facebook. Facebook's demonic. Facebook's evil. And it makes absolutely no sense when every business does this. And
Facebook's other app, Instagram, is even worse. A 2017 study by the British Royal Society for Public Health discovered that Instagram was the most damaging social media site, causing loneliness, anxiety, and depression.
I mean, Instagram, I can see it, because you get shown these perfect lives all the time, perfect bodies and stuff like that. And then, yeah, people start to think that they're not good enough. It makes them depressed. You see people on Instagram showing their highlights of their life, like they're always taking trips and stuff like that. But at the same time, is it people's, like, is it Facebook's fault that basically their algorithm does something simple on Instagram? What people watch or click on the most, it shows more of it. Is it Facebook's fault that people click on and consume beautiful, what society paints as beautiful people? Is it their fault that people are consuming this content? This is what people want shared? Is it really their fault? Because you could just as easily be looking up business stuff. You could be looking up how to get rich, how to become successful, how to fix your energy, how to cleanse the world. You could be looking up stuff like this, and you would only be getting recommended stuff like that. It's not Facebook's fault that the negative stuff is the main stuff that starts trending and gets shared. Just like it's not Facebook's fault that on the news, when somebody's trapped in a burning building or somebody got shot, like this is the reason that they have these headlines and things like that, because that's what people care about. If the news was just positive all the time, guess what? No one would watch, because it's not shocking. It's not terrifying. It doesn't make you fear and have to know what's going on. It doesn't keep you on the edge of your seat. The fact of the matter is, this existed long before Facebook.
This isn't a secret to Zuckerberg, or even the public at this point. It's an established fact. But if you thought Facebook's global omnipresence wasn't creepy enough, things are about to get a whole lot more dystopian. In 2013, Zuckerberg foresaw that Facebook was going to plateau. Almost all big tech companies reach their expiry date as quickly as their rise. MySpace, Napster, Yahoo. So Facebook needed to take on radical change, which is why they began to invest everything into VR technology, putting their finest programmers, engineers, designers to revolutionize social media.
I wonder the beginning stages of this guy's YouTube channel. because it gets to a point where when you're making YouTube videos, your channel plateaus, and you get to this point where you either have to switch up your content, do something different. Like he probably started off with videos like mine where, well, maybe not like mine, like you just talk, you give your opinions on things and stuff like that. Then when you get to a certain status, you can hire somebody to sit here and while I'm talking, add on some different stuff to start flying across the screen and, you know, like add on pictures in the background that correlate to what I'm saying, get a more expensive camera and all that. And then you can make these videos a lot more entertaining and look way more high budget and high quality than it is. But I mean, he probably started at my level and now he's at this level, and you have to keep progressing like that because you're only going to get so far with content, with certain content. So basically what he's describing is something that every business suffers from, including the business that he is in.
It would take over 8 years for their first prototype to be produced, and it was called the Metaverse. Now, what's the Metaverse? Well, according to Zuckerberg, the Metaverse is the next version of the internet. Facebook promises that the Metaverse will introduce the world to a new reality, a reality made up of different worlds, avatars, and businesses. Professor Reed explained that, quote, "The Metaverse's ultimate aim is not just virtual reality or augmented reality, it's mixed reality. It's blending the digital and real world together. Ultimately, this blend may be so good and so pervasive that the virtual and real become indistinguishable, and the market for that is gigantic. Whoever controls it will basically have control of your entire reality." Our minds have already been jacked into the system.
That your phone is already an extension of you. You're already a cyborg. You don't even, well, most people don't realize they are already a cyborg. That phone is an extension of yourself.
But once we live inside the virtual world, where an entire society, economy, and culture exists in this world, that's when we...
You want to know what also was a part of you? Like for cavemen, the little sticks that they used to run with, that was a part of them. Because if they was out here hunting and then a gorilla came out of nowhere and had to get on their ass, they had to protect themselves and do something with it, right? So they kept that stick with them. It was an extension of themselves, because if you walk out there without it, it's not gonna be good for you. Just like in our day and age, if you walk it out without your cell phone, you get that job interview you went to, they try to call you back to hire you. It's gonna be pretty bad if you ain't got your cell phone, or you get some type of opportunities on the internet. I mean, at every point throughout life, something is like this. The thing is, technology has advanced to the point where more technology is what basically is an extension of ourselves. Like advancing, there's nothing wrong with advancing. Would you want to go back to like the stick being an extension of yourself, or are you happy with the cell phone that can actually bring value? You can educate yourself, you can learn, you can make the world better, you can even progress even more. You can use this technology to send positive messages. It's like, do you not want progress to happen? Are you like, I don't get it. Like every single argument that can be made about the harm that this does, it's literally stuff that has existed for centuries at this point. Like a lot of this stuff has existed for centuries. So it's like, we just are progressing more and more and more, and people are seeing that as a bad thing. But all the stuff that came before that literally led us to the point where we are today, none of that was a problem, right?
We should be deeply concerned. This is potentially the biggest threat to humanity as we know it. But to understand why, let's first look at the experience machine. Philosopher Robert Nozick coined the idea of the experience machine in the 1960s, and his version of the experience machine has uncanny parallels to the metaverse. The experience machine is a thought experiment, where you can put an electrode in your head and you can simulate neurotransmitters so that you can live life in infinite bliss. Most rational humans would completely reject this. They wouldn't want this, they'd want a meaningful life. But what if you could put an electrode in your head that gives you endless meaning? Well, I'm starting to worry that that's the situation we find ourselves in now, where the metaverse will provide you meaning through shops, businesses, meeting friends, celebrity worship, instant news, instant pleasure, and shallow meaning in the metaverse. You'll be able to feel as much pleasure as you want and do whatever you want. You can feel like what you're doing is meaningful because that's the illusion needed to keep you stuck in the metaverse algorithm.
The humans just need meaning. A human needs meaning. Like, what is the meaning of life? Like, what is the meaning? What is the purpose? Like, as opposed to being in a metaverse, what are we supposed to be doing? Like, everyone's not trying to solve world hunger. Everyone's not trying to get us to space. Everyone's not trying to create the next vehicle that's good for the world and create green energy. Everyone's not trying to do this. So what's the alternative? working in mines and working for manufacturers and companies and things like this, to the point where you get cancer or something from some of the materials and stuff that you're working with on a daily basis. You get super sick and you die in the future, all because you're just working in an environment that you don't really have to be in, because there's better options and technology has advanced the world to a point where now there's more. There's much more than, we're getting to a point where it may be more beneficial to keep humans alive. Thus, a lot of this stuff that magically has no cure, yet if you have enough money, people don't die from it. A lot of this stuff that has no cure, it may get to a point where it's more beneficial to keep humans alive, to the point where now they can release these magic cures that's probably been around for generations. It's, advancements need to happen in the world. And yeah, I just don't get the narratives that get spun like this. It's just weird.
This is all very real, and as we go into the year 2022, we're already a culture that's being ripped apart by the bliss machine in our pockets, because we're a culture that has lost faith in itself and offers nothing but empty, meaningless nihilism, a neoliberal dystopia that indoctrinates young people to shun authenticity, community, and family in pursuit of vapid consumerism and escapism.
I mean, I guess that would, like, what actually means something? You say something is meaningless, but what are the things that mean something, and who creates that criteria for you? Because that's the question. Like, you say time with family and things like that. I mean, you could easily spend time with family in the metaverse. What if you and your family are doing this metaverse stuff together? Like, what if this is something for you all to do together? Oh, no, it's wrong because you're not in the real world, right? So you're not here, you're standing in the room. Like, what would you be doing if you were here in the same room together? You would probably be, what, watching TV, talking, laughing, and stuff like that. The same thing that you could do in the metaverse, except for there's more. It's like, what is meaningful? Who determines what's meaningful? Because the fact of the matter is, you can do anything meaningful that you can do in real life. You could do that within the metaverse, and it takes nothing away from your real life, because guess what? You can still get together with your family, go out, eat, have fun, do all this stuff, and then go right back to the metaverse together. And yet, like, I think the biggest problem here is that Mark Zuckerberg is going to profit from this. It's more so the fact that he's a good businessman. Like, that's what it seems to be. It seems to be like people are hating the fact that he's a great businessman, and he's the one creating the stuff that is bringing people together, that's connecting people. Like before, how would you have connected with somebody from high school before Facebook? Like, let's say somebody you went to school with, or somebody you know, like you knew from your childhood. How would you have connected with them before Facebook? You probably would have went through life never seeing them again unless you ran into them in a grocery store or something. Now you can recall a name, you can look up an old class photo, check out everybody on Facebook, and then you can connect with these people again as adults, thanks to Facebook. And thanks to technology, thanks to the advancing world that we're living in. So is it that bad that people can connect more? It's just, come on now.
Where we're so numbed on social media that for us to feel anything, we have to find the most absurd forms of escapism, where everything is so fake and empty inside that we have to live vicariously through other people's stories just to feel anything.
I mean, you're talking about feeling anything. Like, you got people with all types of piercings, people who get all types of stuff done to their body and things like that. And of course, people are going to blame the internet for this, but this is the stuff that people are doing because they're trying to feel something in real life. They're doing this to their own bodies. They're doing this to themselves. At least online, if they're doing this, they're adding different tattoos everywhere, all over their face and stuff like that. It's virtual. If people are doing this stuff anyway, and they're trying to make it seem as though it's metaverses and Facebook that's the cause of all this stuff. No, this stuff has been happening. It's just now that we have social media, we can see the things that happens everywhere in the world. Now, does social media have some type of influence on some of the things that happen? Of course. Of course. If no one ever knew who Drake was, a woman wouldn't be running around here with a Drake tattoo on her forehead. But at the same, so yes, there's some influence from social media. But the fact of the matter is, Elvis Presley probably had some woman with a tattoo on her head somewhere too. It just didn't go viral across social media because it was impossible for it to. Like, people have been doing crazy things forever, and it's not going to stop with the internet. It's like the internet is doing nothing but allowing us to see the world for what it really is. People are acting like the internet is changing things. In reality, the internet is showing the true colors of how things have always been.
Where we no longer have a sense of belonging, with our only destiny to be atomized and alone, embroiled in debt.
I mean, if we want to talk about a sense of belonging, like, women used to literally have to stay in the house, only take care of the house back in the day. Like the men went out and worked and women stayed in the house. Talking about sense of belonging, like women could not even vote. Like what are we talking about? Like what? Come on. It's getting ridiculous at this point.
No savings and no money, living in decaying dystopian megacities that are littered with piles of oozing feces. Unable to afford a standard of living that provides us with basic dignity or privacy. A generation
unable to afford a standard of living. Like this is people who could not work before. Thanks to NFTs and metaverses, they're able to feed their families now in other countries who don't have access to some of the things that we're lucky enough to have access to in the States. So let's talk about facts and reality here. Like that's one thing that's being ignored very, very much. We're not talking about the good that this is doing and the fact that people who could never feed their family before are now making double minimum wage in certain places. And minimum wage don't be that high. Like I read somewhere that some people are making like $2 now, $2 a day, not $2 a day, maybe like $2 an hour or something now. And that's more than the minimum wage in their country. And they're doing that using NFTs. What about those people? People who can now, affordably provide for their family in their countries. But no, it wouldn't fit your narrative talking about these people who are changing their lives forever and their family lives using this opportunity that's being created by people creating metaverses.
Of atomized, desperate, lonely losers whose only way of addressing their pain of isolation is to be absorbed by the virtual world. A virtual world that strips us of privacy, freedom, and authenticity. So long as our culture continues to offer nothing whatsoever of substance, authenticity, or meaning, nightmarish trends like the metaverse will only continue to proliferate. And the sad fact is the majority of us will jump in without a second thought, because deep down we have nothing else to live for. And when the majority of people go into the metaverse, that leaves only a small segment of the population who remains outside of the metaverse, who are further ostracized from their friends and family. And of course,
what should we be living for? Like, could you create like a list of things that we should be living for that's very, very like what's the objective in life? What should we all be doing? Like, okay, we get it. Metaverses is evil. Metaverse is the bad thing. Give us a list of what's not evil. Give us a list of what's not the bad things. Let us know what we should be spending our time doing and how it's better. How it's better for everyone. How about that? But should we be working more? Spending time working for people who wouldn't care if we drop dead while we're working for them because we're going to be placed by the end of the shift. Like, is that what we should be spending more time? Like, what is more meaningful? Like, please educate people on what actually matters. You make so many claims. But where's the substance? Where's the stuff that matters? You have all these grand ideas and dreams, but fill us in. Let us know. Let us be able to agree with you.
Zuckerberg knows this, and he wants this. He's the architect of this, because this allows him to become the prophet, the god of an entirely new reality, the creator looking over his population of dumb fucks.
Based on what Zuckerberg has also said, he knows that this is going to be an interoperable world where no one will necessarily be king. There will be a lot of metaverses working together. It's not just going to be Facebook, the king of everything. Excuse me, yo. Facebook is going to be one of many metaverses. Meta is going to be one of many metaverses, and they're all going to be interoperable, connected with one another. So it's not just going to be Facebook ruling over everything. It's going to be many metaverses, and he knows this.
An increasingly narrow group of technocrat billionaires who have full control over the lives of the global population. A metaverse of socialism for the rich. This will serve as the catalyst for the greatest transfer of wealth in recorded history, where all our money and assets are artificially owned in a metaverse owned by technocrats, who have full control of the switch, who have full control of the algorithms that show you specially curated feeds of dopamine hits that continue to shape how you think, how you feel, how you perceive the world. Algorithms that will control your friends, families, and the stimuli around you, which is a very worrying fact considering Silicon Valley is the biggest threat to the West's freedom of speech. For example, back in 2016, billionaire investor, PayPal co-founder, and Facebook board member Peter Thiel was one of the only Silicon Valley executives who donated to Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. Because of his donations, Thiel lost his seat on the board of Facebook on the grounds that supporting Trump was the equivalent of inciting violence. Ellen Powell, the key architect who turned Reddit into the cesspit it is today, explained, quote, "Giving power to someone whose ascension and behavior strikes fear into so many people is unacceptable. Trump's views," Powell wrote, "are more than just political speech fueled by hate and encouraging violence. They make each of us feel unsafe." So if Silicon Valley's billionaire class will publicly shame and cancel their own, what does this mean for the free speech of their consumers? I mean, we've already seen the purging of journalists, commentators, streamers, and even the president of the United States for saying the wrong thing.
thing is, when people free speech, yes, free speech is definitely important, but it's also important for people to watch what they say, which people just don't do. That's one thing that people forget. Like, people don't watch what they say. Certain things just should not be said, and certain things you should not have the freedom to say without there being consequences. That's what it is. Because if you say certain things to people's faces, certain things you wouldn't say to people's faces, like it should just be a rule. If you wouldn't say it to somebody's face, just don't say it at all. Because a lot of stuff that gets said would never be said in front of someone's face, and that's where the problem comes in. That you get to the point where you're just slandering and things like this, then it gets to a gray area where do people just let you just get to saying whatever you want, even if it's disturbing tons of other people? Is that okay?
Just a few years and decades ago, we would never have accepted this excuse that silencing, firing, and cancelling people for their opinions was fine as long as it wasn't the government doing so. But that era has been all too forgotten. So what does this mean for the Metaverse, which will have a monopoly on the bulk of information the globe consumes? And most importantly, this poses the question, what kind of society do we want to live in? The Metaverse will grant the control of a new reality to a man who's already tearing up the fabric of society, sowing the seeds of distrust and hate across the world.
The thing is, like, they're talking about we're giving over control to Mark Zuckerberg. That's false. Cryptocurrency and metaverses and what all this is about is nobody decentralized. Everything being decentralized. No one is controlling this. It's freedom. It's freedom for the first time where we are not being controlled by anyone. Yeah, there's going to be algorithms and stuff like that in place, but everything is going to have algorithms. You're going to have to choose what you want to spend your time doing. You're going to have to choose what's valuable to you. You can literally do anything in the world. So let's say we didn't have the internet. It would be people who choose to play tic-tac-toe, to connect for chess and board games and stuff all day, just like it's going to be people who choose to work on rocket science or choose to become a doctor. It would be people who are gymnasts and musicians and stuff like that. People choose if they want to spend their life entertaining or if they want to spend their life changing the world. And that choice has always been there. The only thing that the metaverse is doing is giving people more options. So, yeah.
And now he's the man who will dictate what you see and feel.
But it is going to.
He does not dictate what you see or feel because Meta is not going to be the only one in the runnings. It's going to be so many other metaverses there. And if he's dictating what he feels you should see, he just must understand people. If that's the one that everybody's using all the time and that's the place that everybody's going, he just understands everything better than everyone else in the world. Because the fact of the matter is, there's going to be different options and alternatives, a lot of different options and alternatives to Meta. So that means that everyone is going to have algorithms. Everyone is going to be building this out. And most of these worlds are going to be built by normal people like me and you. This is the purpose of so many people out here buying digital land, because we can do on this land whatever we want to do on this land. So we build out these things and we're creating opportunity. We're creating things that other people are going to enjoy. Like, we are building these worlds, not them. Like, Mark Zuckerberg may build out his own world and that may be his approach. But my chances are my money is on something like Roblox or Minecraft, where the community is building their own world out.
To bother you because you're human, and I was human. I am human still.
Our society has been descending into madness at such an accelerating rate that the metaverse is promoted as our only redemption. Promoted by Silicon Valley technocrats, the World Economic Forum, and our current plutocracy. Because not only does the metaverse give them more money, more wealth, more investments, but it also gives them unrivaled power. We're already seeing countries like China using dystopian social monitoring technology to control their population, where China is combining their health program and their social credit system to create a civilization code. A civilization code that gives people a civilization score that ranks them. A rank that the CCP uses to judge who gets to enjoy the benefits the state provides and who gets restricted and punished.
已经被限制这个自由的出行了，就是订票啊，我们高铁和飞机都不行。我跟你演示一下，我们用这个 APP 来订票。现在是我们从重庆到西安，我们来订一张票，订一张过几天的票。
And what does it say?
然后就显示那个出票失败，说我已经被法院依法限制高消费 限制乘坐 G 字头列车。
All of this data is then stored on a government database that tracks your internet activity, internet history, which sites you spend your time on, what you say, what you do, and your overall general behavior. With some of these very same restrictions now being imposed on massive chunks of the Western population.
I mean, this comes down to more deep questions that has nothing to do with metaverses, because I mean, you're not traveling. So if you're in a metaverse, you're not traveling, who cares? But the fact of the matter is, a lot of this stuff is deeper. There's a lot of people who want to travel. China has a massive population. So it's just not, everyone just can't travel more than likely there. Like, do they really have enough trains and stuff for everyone in the country to even travel? Is that the reason that these restrictions are being imposed? Like, so it's like, they may not, like, China just more than likely has the approach where it's like, I don't have to explain this to you, but if they explain it, it would probably be something that actually makes sense. And that may not be everyone's cup of tea, just just blindly following leaders. But I mean, we don't know the intentions behind a lot of this stuff going on. Is it good? Is it bad? Who actually knows?
A digital ID card that is monitored by government databases around the world, where your basic liberties are stripped away from you if you aren't able to comply, where you are dehumanized for not wanting your God-given freedoms to be used as a bargaining tool.
And I think, like others have said, gyms, hairdressers, but
God-given freedoms. Like, that's the thing. How much freedom have we been given? For like, really, let's really think about these freedoms. We're born where we're born. So our countries and wherever we're born, it comes with rules. Back even when we were in tribes, let's say back when we were separated into tribes, there was rules. There were barriers that we could not cross because they belonged to another tribe. Like there was, or it belonged to different animals. That's where they like to hunt at. Like, there has always been restrictions everywhere. There has always been restrictions on this planet. The thing is, you come to a place like America, it's the land of the free, you can do what you want, and everybody takes that very, very literal where, oh, you literally can do whatever you want. Like, it's God-given freedom. In reality, there is always rules. There's always something that needs to be followed. It's never just as black and white as you can do whatever the hell you want to do, because this is the land of the free. Why can't we all just go on killing sprees? Because, I mean, obviously that's you're harming other people. That's not right. It's like, what do you mean? Like, this is just basic. This is basic common sense. It's not really a free for all out here. It's just not. It's never going to be that.
But why not supermarkets? Why not public transport? I know it's difficult to police some of these things, but really, if you want to participate in society, you need to be vaccinated.
Where all of those who oppose this are targeted by big tech giants and the parasitic mob. All of these combining factors makes the metaverse the gateway drug to a globalized social credit system, where your speech, actions, and preferences are monitored at all times of the day, where your virtual memories are chopped up and distributed to advertisers for a profit. If this doesn't terrify you, I don't know what will. The companies who will do this have done nothing to engender trust in their users, and yet they will be the architects of our new reality. And the even sadder fact is that most of the public will continue to eat all of this up, desperately rushing to fill the void of emptiness and loneliness.
Well, how about this? There's people like you and and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other powerful people who can come together, and you can be the one to build out a metaverse where you can be trusted. You can do the right thing. Why not get together with other people and do it? It's easier to talk on the internet, make videos like this, and profit off of trashing companies than it is to actually build a company and do what this company is doing. You could easily, this is entrepreneurship. You could easily go and build the metaverse yourself. You could easily get together, get a group of people who feel the same way that you do, and you all could be the pioneers leading us into this new age, because it's inevitable. So, but that's not something that you would want to do, because it's hard. It actually will take some work.
Voraciously consuming synthetic emotions through any escapism possible. Complicitly creating a nightmarish future that will destroy all the pillars of Western free society, where we will eagerly strip all of our privacy and dignity for a pair of Nike's NFT virtual shoes. Gleefully becoming married inside a universe run by a man who sees his customers as dumb f***s, while at the same time, China is now putting their efforts to unplugging their population from the virtual world.
It doesn't really matter how he sees his customers. He's made something that the customers like. That's really what it is. And people have said a lot of crazy things behind closed doors, and they say stuff like maybe because they're used to being toxic with friends or whatever. It depends on the settings that has been said in. But the fact of the matter is he's creating things that people enjoy and people use frequently. Do a better job. Why aren't any of these morally better people doing a better job than him? Because you're such a great person, yet you don't understand people well enough to have the same type of results as him. For people who know how to treat people and you know people so well, you surely can never accomplish anything. Why is this? Maybe you should be calling people like idiots and morons behind their backs and stuff like that too. Then maybe you would have the skill set to actually move the world forward. And it wouldn't just be the guys who looks at the world in that way, looks at like, look at these dumb fucks. Like maybe that guy, maybe he might be onto something. If he thinks that everybody's dumb fucks and what he is doing is working and drawing in everyone, we might have to second guess, yo, are we smart enough or are we actually just dumb? Like, I think that's a fair thing to have to reassess about ourselves. If I mean, clearly what he's doing is working. And if he feels that way and you feel the opposite, yet you feel the opposite and people don't cling to your point of view, I mean, we could really be done.
China is limiting video game usage. China is limiting their population's internet usage. Instead, China is promoting marriage within its population through social economical wedding zones. China is doing everything it can to promote family culture within its populace, and rewarding happy families for doing so. A stark contrast to the West, where single parenthood is now praised as a virtue, where marriage and happy families are seen as an oppressive force, where the Metaverse is praised by the elites, where the Metaverse is willingly eaten up by people so desperate to escape their own hellish reality, a reality that...
And now they're painting this narrative about China as if China is not part of the ones leading the charge of metaverses. It's just now the video is just getting ridiculous, painting it, oh, China is anti-metaverse, yet America, we clinging to it. It's like now you're just talking crazy. You're talking ridiculous. Most technological advances are coming from China. Look at your cell phone. Find out where that's from. Anyway, let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. This was a pretty interesting video, to say the least. Needless to say, I disagree with most of it, but that's just my thoughts and my opinions. Everyone's entitled to their own. Let me know how you all feel. Let me know what you all think. Be sure to drop that thumbs up, subscribe, turn on notifications so you stay updated. And yeah, I will catch you all on the next one. Peace out, y'all.